with future plans for stars revealed and more. This is Wrestling Rambles. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we move on, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Rambles with notifications on, and don't forget to like the video. Going over Logan Paul's involvement in the WWE, Ronda Rousey told Steve-O he's great on the mic. He does a great job on the mic. I wish I was allowed the time to rehearse that he gets. It's not evenly spread. He's like their next big star. They are rolling out the red carpet. It goes to show that if you give people the time to rehearse and the resources, you can do amazing things. It's frustrating that everybody doesn't get that treatment. My first match with them was incredible because we had 6 weeks to rehearse. All the best minds in the business coming and putting in their 2 cents, and it was an instant classic. Then they never did it again. I was like, why isn't this the model? They're doing that with Logan Paul, and he's having these fantastic performances. Look what you guys can do when you actually put organization and effort into things. It blows my mind that this billion-dollar company is succeeding in spite of itself in so many ways. Promoting his upcoming match against Sami Zayn next week, Chad Gable posted this graphic and wrote on X, "Last time I was in Quebec, I beat Gunter. See you Monday, Sami." Responding to the idea from The Undertaker that he should be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, Dustin Rhodes told Chris Van Vliet, "That was nice of him. I loved working with Mark. He was great, always great. When you got two people that can work, it makes things a lot easier, and back then, everybody could work. You had good matches and good storylines. It was just different. The Attitude Era was a different beast, different than anything we've ever had." Explaining why he chose to stick with AEW over joining WWE, Brian Cage said this on the Unleashed show. "My contract was coming up last year with AEW, and I was going back and forth with WWE and AEW with my agent. Trying to see where we should fit, and there's pros and cons to both, and a big reason. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but a big reason to stay with AEW was the fact that there was a lot more certainty, so to speak. It's not necessarily a guaranteed contract, but more for lack of a better term, the contract was essentially guaranteed compared to WWE's, which is, I could be signed there today, gone tomorrow, you know what I mean? So I thought about it, and I got a lengthy term with AEW as well, so I'm like, alright, you know what? We, Cage and Melissa Santos, just had another kid too. My son's about 4.5 months old now, and I have 2 other kids, but I was just thinking for, not just professionally, but personally, I'm like, for the security, for the length of the contract, and comfortability as well, we're already there, things, you're used to it. I was like, yeah, if it's not broke, maybe don't fix it, and I was like, yeah, maybe it's just best to stay here and stay put and make the best out of it." Going back to Tony Khan being such a fan and such a good person and everything else, it plays a big role into that, and the way he takes care of his talent and treats his talent and thinks about his talent as actual human beings, whereas, not to talk negative crap on WWE and obviously Paul Levesque, Triple H in charge over there now, is making a lot of changes, but for the longest time, it's kind of looked at as you're almost just cattle in WWE, and once they don't need you, they're like, alright, see you later, get the hell out of here, we don't need you, or they don't really care as much, whereas like AEW definitely seems like they're more like group and family, and if something was to happen. We've had a couple of people pass while under contract, and Tony's still paid off their contract to their family and is taking care of them and stuff, which is pretty unheard of. So there's just a couple of examples of how he really cares about the people on his roster. Talking about a potential matchup against Bad Bunny, Dominik Mysterio said this on the Ringer Wrestling show. I know Bad Bunny did his thing with Damien in Puerto Rico. I know he got involved in my match last year. He's done a lot for the culture and whatnot, but at the end of the day, Damien said it. You're a singer, dude. Stay in your lane. This is our world here. Judgment Day takes over here. As far as unfinished business goes, if he's more than willing to get in my face again, I'm down to throw down, if you know what I'm talking about. Giving praise to LA Knight, former WWE and current AEW commentator Jim Ross noted on his Grilling JR podcast, LA Knight is one of my favorites of the WWE office. I haven't totally bought into his persona, and not to say that in a bad way. I haven't seen him do anything I didn't like. I just gotta feel it more. They're gonna do a little bit more character development to get me to buy in on who this dude is and why I should give a but he's got a good future ahead of him, no doubt about that. And LA Knight can talk, he can take bumps, he can feed a comeback, he can mechanically execute what is needed to be done. Sticking with JR, he had this to say regarding WWE United States Champion Logan Paul. I don't know who behind the scenes is coaching him, working with him, I don't know, but he's pretty extraordinary for someone who has had 12 matches and performs at the level he has. He's in great shape, he takes amazing bumps, he's easy to dislike. I'm a Logan Paul fan. I think they've got a keeper. The fact that he's not wrestling every week on Raw or SmackDown is probably very, very smart. Inadvertently maybe, I don't know, but it's very smart that he's not being overexposed. Hell of a performer, I'll tell you that. He's a hell of a performer. With him no longer under contract with AEW, Matt Hardy revealed what is next for him, saying on his Extreme Life podcast, Sunday night going into Monday morning at midnight, that is when my contract expired. So yes, I am a free agent right now. Just negotiating, talking, I've interacted with everyone. I'm still interacting with AEW, and that's where we're at right now. Whenever my deal ended up running out, that allowed me the opportunity to negotiate and speak to everyone available, really weigh my options. That's what I'm doing right now. If you're an indie promoter and you're listening to this, I have gotten so many texts and emails and stuff from independent promoters and whatnot. I'm going to hold off on that for a little bit. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing in the big scheme of things, and then I'll go from there. I'm working to get back to everybody as much as possible, and I'm figuring out what I'm going to be doing. I'm in no rush to do it. I'm also going to say that I want to make sure I go to the best place possible. I don't want to make a quick decision. I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for me long term, so that's where I'm at. Mentioning the possibility of AEW star Jack Perry making his way to WWE despite his altercation with CM Punk, former WWE star Matt Morgan said this on the Gigantic Pop podcast. No, they won't, because WWE will never touch that kid with a 10-foot pole. I'm gonna tell you why. If Bubba Ray Dudley, one of the toughest guys I have been across in any locker room at any time in my career, says, I went to go shake hands with him and this guy completely blew me off, the minute I heard that, I knew everything I needed to know about Jack Perry. Bully's a guy who will beat the holy snot out of you, and the fact that he withheld from doing that says something about Bully maturing. Who the flipper are you, brother? Jack Perry. What have you done in this business to think you can talk to Punk the way you did and talk to Bully Ray the way you did? The sweats off their body have drawn more money than you'll ever draw. With Miro having not been seen in AEW since World's End back in December, he said this regarding his health, telling WrestleBinge, I have a shoulder injury and an elbow injury that occurred late last year, so finally took care of it in late January. Got a whole bunch of shots. Now I'm recovering, rehabbing, and come back stronger than ever. Following her loss to Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania 40, this was said about Becky Lynch, as Ringside News wrote that according to the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer reported that Becky's husband, Seth Rollins, would be taking some time off, but not for long. He further added that Lynch is also believed to be on hiatus for the unforeseen future. As The Rock has seemingly decided to take a break from WWE given his interaction with Cody Rhodes from Raw, this was said about plans for the Great One following WrestleMania 40, with the Wrestling Observer newsletter noting that, from what we're told, this is very much a long-term thing. There is no planned date for Rock to return for a match, but it's been talked about next year's Mania. Originally, he wanted to come back and work with Reigns, but obviously, based on everything that went down, the singles title match with Rhodes is the bigger match right now. As things stand right now, he may work a match later this year, but that is not a lock. He would prefer to work with Rhodes in the main event of next year's Mania. As we've seen, he is generally going to get what he wants. That would seem to lock Rhodes in for at least a one-year title reign. We are told that isn't a lock, but Johnson would prefer it. On X, a user wrote this message: "Wasn't able to find my autographed Natalya shirt, which means it's lost of the rubble of tornado damage, and I am so sad about it. My framed Evolution poster is gone too." Natalya replied, "I'll send you a new one. DM me your address." As many noticed a change in presentation for AEW's television product, Executive Vice President and Head of Global Production Michael Manzuri said this about it on the AEW Unrestricted podcast. "I joined in December of 22. I joined, I believe, Winter is Coming 22 was my first show, so in Texas, right? I learned that in January when we were kicking off the year with Dynamite in Seattle, Washington, that we were going to roll out a brand new Dynamite look, a brand new Dynamite set, and I was like, alright, cool, that's great, something to look forward to, I can't wait to see it. I didn't really know what was going on. When we arrived in Seattle that day and I saw the set, it was cool, but it wasn't my favorite thing, just speaking honestly here. I saw the new graphics, and I'm not gonna lie to you, and this has nothing to do with the fact that I spent the bulk of my career there, but I remember walking in that day when they were starting to run through elements and stuff. I looked and I was like, oh, that looks like Survivor Series sort of look. At this point, I'm maybe 3 weeks into the job at AEW. I've been out of wrestling for a couple of years at this point, doing MMA and working with Pat McAfee and his group in Indianapolis, but that was the first thing that hit me was, man, that red and blue. I started to have preliminary conversations with Tony in terms of the new look for next year, and also we began talking about the set. That theme was there, that restoring the feeling, but me personally, I didn't want to do a full reversion back to what was. For me, I was of the mindset of let's pay homage to day one, but let's also show that AEW is continuing to grow, continuing to evolve. So when I got together with our internal team, both on the inner arena and the post-production side, and then we also involved the team from WBD as their phenomenal collaborators to work with. You know, case in point are those what we're calling the Ready to Fight from those that have been airing across the WBD networks that have just been so awesome, and a fresh coat of paint and a different way to kind of attack promotion for a wrestling organization. We wanted to kind of tip our cap and acknowledge what brought AEW to the dance, but also show you like, hey, we're also thinking about growth and moving towards the future. So that was the idea behind it. That's why even with that colorful presentation and vibe of the new Dynamite package, it's a throwback to the color splash in terms of just that vibrance and that eye-catching, eye-grabbing sort of color palette, but it's an evolution of it. It's not a direct, just sort of quote-unquote rip-off of it. It's just more like, hey, we acknowledge you. When we were coming into designs and when I was talking to our team, I said, in terms of the LED aesthetic or whatever, that's kind of last on priority. For me, what I'd like to do is let's take the tunnels, because we still had those tunnels. They were in one of our warehouses in Orlando, but let's beef them up. Let's figure out a way that we can take these tunnels and, again, homage to the past, but at the same time, evolution to the future. In a video posted to X, Grayson Waller would end up seemingly taking a shot at Will Ospreay by referring to the grind.
Can you imagine being in freezing cold Detroit right now? Because I can't. I'm in sunny Florida, by the pool, must be very nice. I think I could get used to this champ schedule. Turning up when you want. I'm a champ now, I don't need to worry about this grind nonsense. Grayson Waller ain't worried about the grind, I ain't doing that, I'm a champ. And I know a few people in Detroit were upset that the tag champs ain't gonna be there. A few people are upset about some of the things I said about your city. You know, turn up Detroit and see what happens. I'm not turning up. I told you idiots that. And then people were talking about the Detroit Lions. They're good this year, they're good this year. Brother, what kind of trash sports town are you part of when you're impressed by the third best loser? That's embarrassing. But hey, I hope everyone has a wonderful time at SmackDown tonight. I hope you all enjoy it. And next week, maybe I'll turn up in Pittsburgh. Maybe.
Going back to her interview with Steve-O, Ronda Rousey said this regarding pro wrestling. It's scripted. Mostly, there is a general idea. They are working together. I like to relate it to figure skating. Two people together creating a performance. As Shayna Baszler likes to say, there is no fake way to take a chair shot. You're actually getting hit with a chair. It's also not a competition. A lot of wrestlers and stuff will be like, wrestling is real. I got this injury or that injury. I'm like, okay, as a competitor in an actual sport, I'm never worried about getting injured. I'm worried about losing. That's the most stressful part of it. Injuries are not at all what you're thinking about. That's not what makes it real or makes it hard. It's the uncertainty of the outcome. When people are like, it's a real sport. No, it's not a sport. It's a very intense performance, which I have a lot of respect for, but it's not a sport. If you've ever dealt with the stress and anxiety that comes with competition, you can't take that out and call it a sport. It's so tough. It's very physical, but it's not a sport. In that same interview, Rousey revealed that she hid her concussion history from UFC as well as WWE. When I wanted to go to WWE, they've had such a complicated past with concussions and stuff like that. They wouldn't hire me if they knew it was that point. If I let them know how often I was getting concussions, they wouldn't let me perform in matches. I had a lifetime of experience hiding the fact that I was concussed all the time. So, yeah, now I can finally talk about it because I don't think I'll be wrestling for WWE ever again. With Zelina Vega accused of stiffing the creator of a WrestleMania outfit, she responded to her as well as another artist who worked with her previously, writing on X. Welp, had to reactivate Twitter just to correct people. Screenshots, photos, and videos to come. Last thing my husband and I are scammers. So, time to make things clear. All of it. And for the people who want to threaten life and create fake news scam scenarios to jump on the hate train because they think it's fun and cool for social media, do better. Because you're about to be proven very wrong. She then followed that up with screenshots of messages and wrote, I do not want any hate sent to any of the people, including Mecca, or situations that I'm about to clear up. If you're a fan of mine, please don't. This isn't meant to be Twitter fun, but I do have the right to defend myself. Excuse the slow responses as it is a travel day. None of my other gear makers have ever had an issue with me, and if they did, we handled it in person. My intent, despite being highly upset at what trolls blew this up to be, is to get to a place where everyone feels okay about things, as I thought that is where my team and her got to. Once it left my hands, I was moving, working, and dealing with a sick family member. I left it in their hands and it seemed to be settled. Starting with at Sangre Bomb, because Mecca is a lot more involved and I'm going to be recording a video, not that you can tag a person that blocked you on IG anyway. I asked, would you be interested? Do you want compensation? They said no. I still offered everything else and even surprised them by getting them ticks and brought them backstage to say thank you personally. They went back on the original agreement and wasn't clear about what they now wanted, and I stopped using their image on the controllers and respectfully cut ties. How am I the bad guy here? Noting how the head of talent relations has been removed in WWE, CEO of the company, Nick Khan, said this in an email to staff. WWE has begun the process of reorganizing its talent relations group. Moving forward, Chris Legentil, in addition to his role in comms, will help us in leading this new group. Matt Altman, in addition to his role in marketing, will be working closely with Chris to help this endeavor. Talent development and recruiting will now report to Shawn Michaels. All of talent, which includes talent relations, development, and recruiting, will continue to ultimately report into Paul Levesque. As of today, Dan Ventrell will be moving on from WWE. We thank Dan for his tremendous contributions. Sincerely, Nick Khan. Soon after the previous bit of news came out, another departure was seen at WWE with TJR Wrestling Writing. According to a report from Mike Johnson of PW Insider, Trent Wilfinger has left WWE. Wilfinger had been with the company since 2021, working as Senior Vice President of Athlete ID and Development. Before joining the sports entertainment giant, Wilfinger worked with fitness company X's for over a decade. The news comes after it was revealed that Dan Ventrell had also left WWE. Ventrell joined the company back in 2022 after Triple H was promoted from the position to become Chief Content Officer. Triple H had taken on the role after John Laurinaitis was released from his contract following allegations of sexual misconduct. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.